to The Open Road. I'm your host, Megan, also known as Rootless Adventure Company. I am a full-time outdoor adventurer and creative entrepreneur on a mission to make every moment of this beautiful life count. As someone who has built a life around travel after leaving my hometown for the very first time at 18, I've learned that we can truly do anything we set our minds to in this lifetime. I help people just like you and I live a fulfilling life that prioritizes freedom, happiness, and our adventurous bucket lists. In today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing my twin brother, Devon. Devon is, like I said, my twin brother. Through gap years, music tours, and study abroad programs, he has certainly made travel a priority in his adult life and his career. He just recently completed studies for his master's degree from Boston University in international affairs with a specialization in security studies. He focuses on the Balkans and is about to head to Belgrade, Serbia for a year to learn the language, do an internship, and finish his thesis research. Listen as we dive into his travel experiences, his wisdom, and discuss our life as twins. Welcome, Devon, to the Open Road podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
The reason why I wanted to have you on today is because recently, even people that we know, Cindy, a family friend, asked me if I inspire you to travel, and I thought that was funny because my answer was that it's the other way around. So I think that people who don't know you definitely have a lot to learn from your travel experiences in some of the lesser known areas. And yeah, someone recently asked me if I inspired you to travel, and yeah, it was definitely the other way around. You definitely traveled first, right after high school. You were the first one to leave when you went to Germany. So what was your inspiration to travel in the first place? Because I never thought it was possible at the time. I remember when you went to Germany, I was like, that's cool that Devon is leaving the country. I will never be able to do that. I don't know where Devon got that idea that that's something that we could do.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of it in your own episode, your solo episode, where you kind of talked about us growing up, and I would just kind of echo that we didn't really travel that much growing up as kids, and I also didn't really think it would be a possibility. I really wanted to get out of the country, but I just also didn't think that there would be any ability to do that. Obviously, I was broke as a joke as a kid, but it wasn't funny. So I just started finding scholarships and opportunities to actually get out and get it paid for. And I think I was taking German classes in high school, and we had an exchange student friend who came to study at our school for a year, and my German teacher in high school, Frau Oder, she told me about a scholarship through the Department of State called the Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange, which was just to go to Germany for a year for free through the Department of State. And so it started. I didn't necessarily know that I would have money to travel, but I guess I just started finding scholarships and opportunities to actually get out and get it paid for. Because, I certainly did not have the money to do that as an 18-year-old kid, but I didn't know that you could find other people to pay for you to go abroad. And so I started finding more and more of those opportunities. But I remember using one of my paychecks from Yule Fritz's frozen custard, from my using
the ice cream shop.
Yeah, when I finally got a raise to make $8 an hour, I used it to pay for my first passport without even telling our parents. And I paid for my deposit for my scholarship program when I found out that I got it. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to send cash through the mail, but I paid for it with my own money because I didn't want to tell our parents that I had accepted it. I didn't know that they would let me go.
Okay, so you get the scholarship and you go to Germany. What was that experience like?
Germany really, really, really opened my eyes because as soon as I got there, one of my language learning tools was to watch the news with my host family every night. And this was in the fall of 2015. So it was kind of at the height of the Syrian refugee crisis. And so I was not only watching news in German and trying to learn the language, but I was also learning about the world around me. And so, for example, I remember one of the first days we were watching the news and they were talking about all the refugees coming into Germany. They kept saying the word like Flüchtlinge, Flüchtlinge, which is the German word for refugee. And my host dad was like, "Oh, do you know like what that is? Do you know the situation?" And I remember looking, like even translating it. I was like, "No, I don't know what a refugee is." And so, yeah, I learned the word for a refugee in German before I even learned what it was in English. And I think that speaks a lot to where we grew up. But I was just generally burnt out. I was in a high school program. I had already graduated high school, and the
Right.
ocean, I underestimated how large the ocean can really feel when you are on your own in a foreign country and things are going wrong and you're an 18-year-old kid and you don't have any money and you just kind of thought that it would all work out. I
And
learned
your
very
parents
quickly.
don't understand how to help because they've never been in that situation before
Yeah,
because they never
exactly.
traveled internationally. And I was in
Yeah.
Chicago just as depressed.
Yeah. And so I actually had to appeal to end my program early and come home.
That's okay. I think everybody's first international trip is full
Yeah.
of anxiety and mishaps.
Yeah.
It never really goes well.
No. Actually, I want to finish that by just saying I got everything I needed to get out of Germany. I did learn the language. I got friends. I did actually settle into the culture and the life pretty well. But at the end of it, there were just things beyond my control that I could not deal with as an 18-year-old kid. But I don't regret and would never take back the experience of going in the first place.
Definitely. That's awesome that you did that. And it definitely inspired me to finally be able to travel internationally for the first time. That was when I realized that it was actually a possibility for us to do. So, the one
Yeah.
thing that you did take away from Germany that you really enjoyed was traveling. How did you prioritize travel in your life once you got back to the United States after that?
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, we did like marching band and dance and a lot of arts, kind of traveling art stuff. So I always had the opportunity to travel through, whether it be like music or dance or theater or like whatever. And so whenever I came back, whenever I went to Germany, I'd gotten contracted for a drum and bugle corps playing euphonium. And God, how do you even describe what drum corps is? It's basically it's basically like a professional marching band, and you just take out like the woodwind instruments. So it's like got its start in a military bands, and it's kind of branched out into like its own independent creative thing. And so yeah, before I went to Germany, I got contracted to a group called the Blue Stars Drum and Bugle Corps, which was one of the top 10 drum and bugle corps in the entire world. But I had to give up my contract in order to go to Germany in the first place because of my departure date that was kind of mandated. So I couldn't tour that summer. So actually, by coming back from Germany early, I actually was given the opportunity to re-audition for the Blue Stars and start touring. And so for the past, this is now I think year 8 or year 9. I spent three summers performed as a euphonium player, and then I have now spent the past four. This is my 4th year actually on the administration staff. So I keep getting further and further away during the year. Every summer, somehow I end up exactly where I am right now, which is this tiny town in Iowa called Forest City, where we learn our show and get ready to travel across the country uh, for the rest of the summer, just kind of learning a show and then performing it. And so that's kind of how I keep domestic travel in my life. Every year now I get the opportunity to just live on a tour bus for 3 months
So
and
fun.
wake up wherever it decides to take me.
And play the same music.
Yeah.
How did you decide to go to ISU and major in international studies?
Yeah, so I originally got into a music school after high school, but when I got that scholarship to Germany, I deferred it for a year. I did go to Truman for 1 semester of music ed, as I was planned to do. But when I came back from Germany, it was just like I had I had all these experiences with like refugees from the Middle East, and I remember like a very specific moment with this woman that my host mom had kind of invited over to our house to have dinner and cook for us and with us. And I remembered that she was from Afghanistan, and I just had a moment where I realized like my country had been at war with her country my entire life, and I think also based on where we grew up, I just had also been taught to like hate her, and I was like, wait, actually, like I'm cooking dinner with this woman, like she's been through so much in her life, and just like general experiences with refugees like really kind of changed my whole perspective on life and the world, and really what was like important to me and in life, um, outside of St. Louis, Missouri. So I originally got into school for music education. I went to Germany. I came back after having all these experiences, and I could tell immediately that I was in the wrong. I couldn't really get out of my mind that there was just something bigger and more important in life. And it's not that obviously music is still a big part of my life, but I was like, I don't need to be a band director. I can't have the life where I just work on a different concert cycle every year. I just work on a different show every year. I have to live in a suburb. I have to get a job at a school, and I don't know if I'm going to retire, make no money. Like, don't know if I'm going to be able to prioritize travel in my career if I do that. And I have the experiences in music that allow me to travel and that I needed to get out of music. And so I just didn't think that I needed to go to college for that and carry on that career path, which is fine.
That's what happens
Yeah,
when you pick your major right out of high school versus when you pick your major after having some life experience. I
yeah,
think that's that
exactly.
difference.
Exactly. And it's nobody's fault. It's just kind of like what we're
No,
taught
yeah.
in America, that there's like no other option. You have to go to college right after high school. So I found out I realized pretty immediately that it wasn't right for me, but I did finish out that semester, and then I still had 3 more years of drum corps eligibility, or 2 more years of drum corps eligibility after that semester, and I needed money to be able to tour for 3 months to put my life on hold and tour for 3 months every summer.
Because,
So
yeah, that's something you pay
yeah.
for versus.
Yeah, so I needed money to be able to do that. I needed time to be able to practice. I still had some things in performing that I wanted to get out of life, so I took 2 more years off school. I worked in a restaurant in Kentucky, and kind of finished that. And then when I was done performing, I pretty much knew that I was ready to go back to college, but I could never really let my experiences in Germany go. And so whenever I reapplied to school, instead of doing music education, I applied for school in political science, like just a bachelor's in political science, and I did that instead.
Yeah, and you went to school in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, which,
Yeah,
like, is a small town.
I liked living there though.
And it was only, I was living in Chicago at the time, so it was only like 2 or 3 hours away from me. So it was
Yeah,
very easy for us to visit each other during that
exactly.
time,
It
which
was
was
closer to
really
you.
nice.
Yeah, it was closer to you. I was involved in the music program. I still did
Yeah.
marching. I still did stuff, but I was able to start exploring, transitioning my life away from music and back into political science full time travel.
So at the end of your undergrad degree, you studied abroad in Cyprus and then you took an internship in Bosnia. I don't even know what you did in Cyprus. How did
Yeah.
and I
So
never even heard of Cyprus. Like what is Cyprus?
what is Cyprus?
And how did you end up studying abroad there? Please explain.
No, that's a good question. It's actually one that I had too, which is exactly why I went there. Um, no, so I was always obviously interested in international relations, but ISU did not have a specific international relations program. So I kind of had to build one myself. COVID happened in the middle of my sophomore year of college. And so we got kicked online for a full year and a half, and I didn't have any classes in person again at ISU after my freshman and part of my sophomore year. But I was really interested in international relations, and so once things started opening up a couple years later for my senior year, I'd always wanted to study abroad in college, but I didn't know where. And I was always interested in international relations more so than like standard political science. And so I started looking at study abroad programs just to get out of the country if I wasn't going to have anything left to do in normal Illinois. And so I just started looking through the class options that would actually suit my minor, and that I could actually take in like conflict studies. And one of the programs was in Cyprus. And I remember I chose it. It was between that and Prague in Czech Republic. And I remember looking, I was like, where the fuck is Cyprus? I was like, is that a country? like as an international like relations major, I was like, what is Cyprus? Where is this? And I remember going to Google Maps and I was like, okay, let me just see where it is. And I remember when it was like loading, I typed it in and it was loading. I remember thinking like this could be anywhere in the world and I have no idea where this is about to end up. And so for those that don't know, Cyprus is an
Nobody
island.
knows.
I know. Cyprus is an island. It is an independent country, but it is south of Turkey. It's in the Eastern Mediterranean. It is south of Turkey. It is north of Egypt, and it is like just west of Lebanon and Syria. And so it's part of the EU. It's considered like a strategic location, but it is a divided island. So that well, controversially, but so the southern 2/3 of the island is ethnically Greek, and then the northern third of the island is ethnically Turkish. And there was like a conflict in the 60s, maybe the 70s. My Cypriot history is not brushed up on anymore, where it forced the UN to come in and implement a peacekeeping mission to separate the two sides. And so it is the last remaining divided capital city in the world, which is Nicosia, which is the city that my university was in. But yeah, it is a Mediterranean island. It is a divided island. I was studying peace, and so peace and conflict. And but like I said, it is considered a strategic location, which means that I also have access as a study abroad student to do a lot of travel while I was there. So I saved
Oh
up a lot
yeah,
of money during COVID, and it was super easy to hop over to Europe on the weekends.
because it's
It
part of
was
the EU still.
Yeah, it was like really close to Middle East and North Africa. So I mean, and it's in the middle of the Mediterranean. Like I spent a lot of time on the beach. Like it was fucking fantastic. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it was kind of the perfect place to work, learn, but also like really enjoy a beautiful place. And yeah, I also ended up there because I was like, where the fuck is this?
Okay, interesting. So after you finished being an island boy in Cyprus, you took an internship in Bosnia. What was it about your work in Bosnia that made you so passionate about it that you would want to specialize in the Balkans for your graduate program
Yeah,
and
no,
future
that's a good
career?
question. That's a good question. I always like to say that I ended up in the Balkans by accident and fell into the Balkans, like most people do by accident. I wasn't planning on it at all. It kind of really just happened. When I was leaving Cyprus, I definitely didn't want to. I had to do an internship requirement for my undergrad degree. I don't know, because a degree in political science from Illinois State University doesn't really mean much. um, in trying to get a job. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I knew I wanted to stay in Europe, but I didn't necessarily want to stay in Cyprus. And so I was trying to get an internship in Brussels with like NATO or some sort of European. And I kind of just realized that it was too expensive. I wouldn't be able to afford it, but also because I've always tried to do things differently than everybody else. And so I was like, I was writing a paper about Bosnia and the genocide and the um, transitional justice attempts in Bosnia, for a class in Cyprus. And so I just kind of was thinking, like, oh, what if I look at internship opportunities in Sarajevo, see what happens? And there was an organization that I found while I was doing my research for my paper that had internship applications due the very next day. And I was like, perfect. I'm running out of time. I need an internship. And they didn't ask for a cover letter. So I was like, perfect. I just have to fill out these list of questions, send it to an email. I'll hear back in a couple weeks. And it worked out. And Sarajevo,
Nice.
yeah, Sarajevo was kind of the best experience at the time because it was different, which is exactly what I was looking for. It was still Eastern Europe, and kind of Mediterranean, which I really learned to appreciate about Cyprus, but it was still a different experience, and it was far, far, far cheaper than Brussels and Western Europe.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Like I learned so much from the people in Bosnia, from their experiences with the war, even just from being in Sarajevo, because that city is like a living museum. Like you can still walk around the center of the city of Sarajevo, and there's still bullet holes from the 90s and buildings that like were never rebuilt, and
Oh wow.
people with stories to tell. And I kind of realized that that way of traveling and working was so much more meaningful, than sitting in a building in Brussels or DC with a suit on and thinking that you're solving the problems of the world. Not that like the UN and the EU and world, like people don't do meaningful work. But I guess my experiences in Cyprus and Bosnia like really saw the failure of the international community. But I find that people there are still so hopeful.
Interesting.
I feel like the people that have, I always say this, but I feel like the people who have seen the worst of humanity in life are not the ones that see it the worst. It's those people that see that they kind of like, that the leaders responsible for solving their problems like actively turn the other way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that sucks. And how can you help them?
But I guess going back to Bosnia, sorry because I forgot to answer the question. I even when I left Bosnia, I was never planning. Like I loved it, but again, like I was never planning on going back. I didn't think I would ever have the opportunity to go back to Bosnia again after that. I did really grow to love it, but whenever I was in, well, I guess I would say like that. So that year in college, that senior year in college, I'd already gotten into BU for grad school, so I was just kind of collecting experiences and seeing what stuck.
BU Boston University.
Yeah, Boston University. I was just trying to find what stuck. So I was trying to find everything. I didn't think that anything that I would be able to specialize in like the Balkans, for example, because I'm not from there. So I don't know. I just always explored what I was interested
So after Bosnia, you moved to Boston to go to grad school at Boston University. How did you end up doing your thesis on and then eventually specializing in conflict in the Balkans?
in. Yeah, so this is kind of coming back to what I said that I ended up in the Balkans by accident again. So the first time I wasn't planning on going there, and after that I wasn't planning on going there either. I didn't think I could specialize in the Balkans because yeah, it was something I was interested in, but I guess I do understand like I'm not from the Balkans. I don't speak the language. I It's a very hard language. So yeah, I didn't live through the war. Like I didn't think that there was there was anything that I could bring to the table in that regard. So I
Yeah.
was just like exploring like what is interesting to me. And whenever I got to Boston University to BU, there was a professor that became just like really interesting, like really good mentor of mine. And he was a diplomat from the Balkans. I took his classes. He taught a class about Balkan politics. Like I took it. I still didn't think that I would ever have an opportunity to go to the Balkans again after that, and I decided to write my thesis about a different topic and choose a different advisor. But last summer, I ended up doing like a 2 week academic seminar in Belgrade, Serbia, which I also took because it was um, fully funded and free. So yeah, I did that for 2 weeks, and like while I was there, I mean, Serbia is also like in the former Yugoslavia. It's all in the Western Balkans, and it's the country right next to Bosnia, and they speak the same language. Well, relatively, they're mutually intelligible. They're considered different languages, but they're mutually intelligible. But yeah, so I was in Serbia and I was like, listen, Sarajevo was my favorite. Like Bosnia has my whole heart forever. But then I was like, oh, like I can study the Balkans. Like I've been here twice now. I've spent almost 6 months of my life in the Western Balkans just in the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of started to realize that if I wanted to do it, there would be opportunities for me to do it. And so
I
I
think
just,
you found your group of where you were good at too, like both what you were
yeah.
interested, what you were good at, and what people maybe needed.
Yeah, I found by accident the one thing that stuck. I just wasn't
Yeah.
planning on being the one. But yeah, so I came back and I decided to write my thesis about Bosnia because I was like, no, like I love this place. This place is home. These people I've learned more about than anywhere else in the world. So
So you tend to travel to places that aren't glamorized in the media so much, or probably at the top of people's bucket list if they've even heard of them at all. Why do you think that more people should travel to these types of places in these areas?
well, first of all, it's fucking beautiful. Holy shit.
And cheap.
um, Yeah, it's cheap, it's beautiful. I think that there's the thing that I find when you travel as an American to places where Americans don't really go is that people are really curious and open and thankful that you're there, and a lot more welcoming. The Balkans are so welcome. Not even the Balkans, but like I've also traveled a little bit like in the Middle East, and it's like anywhere. And like I said earlier, like when I started this, is one of my first experiences trying to get into travel was because I met people that I felt like I was raised my entire life to hate and to be afraid of. And I think that when you travel to places where Americans don't go, you get to learn things that Americans don't learn from people that Americans don't get to meet. Like I never thought in my life that I would end up in the Middle East or talking to refugees from places my country has been at war with almost my whole life. And so I think that people are so much more open and welcoming, and compared to like Western Europe, like nobody's going and I don't know. I don't want to say it. I was going to say nobody's going and being welcomed in Paris, but they're known for not really being welcoming to tourists.
Yeah, nobody is going to Paris and being welcomed with open arms, that's for
But
sure.
in the Balkans, it's like people want to take me to the mountains. They want to take me to, they want to invite me into their homes and eat their food and hear their stories. And it's like, I think that everybody in life like just wants the opportunity to be heard and listened to. And I think especially Bosnia really, really feels that they were just ignored, and the world just watched Bosnians die and didn't do anything about it. And eventually they did. Like eventually NATO did intervene for the first time ever in the Bosnian War and did end the violence, but they're still in this complex political situation that is directly, at least I argued in my thesis, is directly tied to the delay of intervention and just watching people die and suffer and a genocide happen like on the West's watch. And
That's
sorry, we got dark. But yeah, I think that like whenever you go to these places, you do see your country in a different light. Like
oh yeah, definitely.
I'm not necessarily ashamed to be an American, but I don't like living in America all the time. And I think when you go to, I guess, reckon with like this history, or like they're just so thankful because the West just like left us to die, and they're really thankful when somebody is actually willing to come and listen to their story and be like you want to come see my place now? Like yes, I'm willing to show you how beautiful my mountains are, show you how beautiful my people are, show you how delicious my food is. I guess I could wrap that up by just saying, like, I've learned so much more about myself in places I never thought I would be able to get to go to, and places where I've just been open and let the work and my passion like guide me there rather than like picking. I don't know. Like, I've never been the type of person that can travel just for the sake of travel. Like, I need a reason to do it. I need to go to school, learn about a conflict, learn a language. Like, I need to travel for a specific reason. I
Yeah.
can't just, like, yeah, I've seen a lot of beautiful places, but that's not the reason why, primarily why I travel. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think beyond like a week long vacation, it should be just so we've been to some similar places, some places that are different, only once together to compare and contrast like our travel styles and our travel experiences a little bit.
Yeah, let's go back and forth.
So I'll ask some questions and we can both answer them. How do you prioritize travel in your life?
Well, at this point, I would just say that like I have made it my life. Like there have been now years in my adult life where I have gone without paying rent, without owning a car. Like I tour every summer for drum corps, and then in the years in between, I find places to go. So like I did my study abroad and my internship year in between two summers of drum corps, and now um, I'm going to Belgrade in between two summers of drum corps. And so like in my summer I get that domestic travel, or so like I just travel for work, but two different types of work. So like in the summer I get to be musician drum corps Devon, and I get to travel for drum corps and go around the US with my friends that I have now known for 9 years and see the same people every year. But then I also like during the 9 or 10 months in between, I get to travel and get to be international relations Devon. I get to be student Devon. I get to go live in the world of international relations and conflict, and like learn new people, see new places, learn new languages. But then in the summer, I still travel, but I get that familiarity. Well, I would just say like I travel primarily for work, and I use those work experiences as opportunities to explore other destinations that are nearby rather than leaving with a destination in mind.
Yeah. Whereas the other way around, where I like have specific things on my bucket list and specific places that I want to go, and I have a remote job so that I can go kind of where I decide. Whereas you
Right. Whereas
have
like
your work paid
yeah.
for where you go.
Yeah, no, that's right. But I mean, like, I would still say, like, I do have places on my bucket list. Like, I really
Yeah.
want to go to South Caucasus, to Georgia, Armenia. The number one place on my bucket list is Syria. Um, so, like, I still have places I like to go. I just kind of,
You'll
I
get
guess,
there when you get there,
yeah, I'll get there when I get there.
when it's convenient to
Yeah,
wherever you are.
maybe I'll find an opportunity to go work in Georgia here soon. So.
Yeah.
I would say like another way that we're different when we travel is like whenever I go places, I'm more interested in like the historical, like the museums, the religious experience, or like
Oh,
event
yeah.
travel. Whereas I think that you definitely are more
I care more about the outdoors, like the hiking trails, like the nature scenes, coffee
exactly.
shops. But yeah, more so like I'm looking for ways to enjoy the nature of a place.
Yeah, I think also like we've been to a lot of like adjacent places. Like we've both been to Europe a lot, but I am like begging you to get over to Eastern Europe. Like I want to take you to the
Yeah.
Balkans so bad. But like yeah, like you said, the only place internationally we've ever actually been on together has been Iceland, which I think is funny a little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay, so when it comes to preparing for our trips, are we similar or are we different? I think we're different because while I save money for my trips, it's not as much because since I work like while I'm traveling, I don't feel like I need to kind of prepare so much in advance because I'll kind of make money while I'm traveling. Is you definitely prepare much differently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since I do tend to do like scholarship funding based travel, I usually have to end up with a lump sum before I go, rather than figuring out as I go, for sure. I mean, I would say that's also something that I took from my experience in Germany because I would say that, like, I dealt with a lot of really tough issues in my time in Germany, really early on. Like, and I kind of thought that I was like young and invincible, and like, oh, this would like never happen to me. And kind of when I left, I realized that there are a lot of things that you have to prepare for when you travel and problems that are insurmountable, like for example being 18 and realizing that it actually costs money to go abroad and you can't just like make it work. I didn't I guess I would just say
Yeah, there are problems that come up that aren't like $20 to fix. Like
yeah,
they could be 1,000 and
like
you
oh
need
I'm
to pay
here
for it.
yeah like oh I'm here for 10 months and my visa doesn't let me work. I just did not have the tools, the skills, the experience, the humility to admit that I needed help and to actually ask for it.
Yeah, you're
And
not, yeah, you don't ask for help.
yeah, even when I left Germany, like my biggest it wasn't that it wasn't the right decision at the time, but it was that there was a possibility that if I left, that I would never be able to have the opportunity to go back overseas ever again. That
Oh,
fear has
yeah.
that fear has like just started to go away for me. But I guess when I prepare for my travel now, I save so much more money than I need. I acquire so much. I make sure that I'm covered for the entirety of my trip before I even leave. Whereas you are much more willing to just leave and figure it out as you go, which I just can't do that. I'm starting to get there.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're definitely meeting in the middle because I'm trying
Yeah.
to prioritize my savings a little better, but at the same time, like I can pretty much just like pick up a job anywhere I go. So it's not,
Yeah, I also do like
I don't know.
yeah, I do like longer assignments, I guess. So like
Yeah.
sometimes when I go for an internship, like it's a 90-day internship, I don't have the ability all the time to get bored and pick up and leave and go back. Like I don't think I have as much flexibility in my travel as you do.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I definitely,
yeah, so
yeah. Sometimes I'll stay places for like 3 hours or 3 months, whichever
right. And you
I
can move
feel
on to
like.
something else. Yeah,
Yeah.
which I guess like yeah, where I would also say is I do spend more time in one place since I don't pick my destinations, I have to figure out where I'm at and just build a life there and go through like that stage of burnout until you actually get to the point of finding things about a place that you fall in love with. Where I think that if I was traveling for like more like you instead of for work, I would get to that hard point where I'd be like, okay, well, I want to go home. I can pick up and leave now. Whereas like I don't have that option anymore, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
You just like I just have to make it work. Not that I don't want to, but it's just like I guess acknowledging that travel does get difficult sometimes, and sometimes you just need to stick it out in a place, and you'll find. Like,
Yeah.
when I first got to Bosnia, I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I was lonely. The weather was pretty rough. I mean, it's a dark history. I was there learning about genocide every day, um,
Yeah.
and I was it was my first semester out of school. I was just working like an internship where it was a small office. Like I didn't really have a group of friends outside of work. And so I was just bored. I was lonely. I was tired. I was doing tough things every single day. I didn't know the language. I didn't think that it was worth it in the beginning to learn it. Because I was like, when am I ever going to use this again?
Yeah.
Now I'm just on a
Joke's
rant,
on
but
you.
yeah, now I'm just going on a rant. But I mean, yeah, when I first got to Bosnia, I was like, what am I getting myself into? And by the time I left, I was like, I want to come back.
I've definitely felt that way in certain places before. What type of traveler are you?
I would say that I'm definitely a little bit less extroverted when I travel than you are. Like I do really well when I have that like internship or student group or like people around me um to go there and automatically kind of have a group of people that I have to make friends with. I'm definitely less outgoing when I'm on my own. Like I really do well if I have like the support of an organization of some type of like classmates or colleagues or people that I'm going there and already have like kind of a group of people that I have to make friends with rather than having to go and make friends while I'm somewhere. I don't really like talking to like tourists or foreigners by myself. I'm not really that type of person that can do that. Whereas I feel like you might be a little bit more. Like I remember going like on some of my study abroad trips, like I went to Vienna for a weekend and like I just spent the whole weekend in museums and it was great. Like I was there by myself. I also went like a month later with a friend of mine, but like I had a good trip both like by myself and with him. Whereas like I went to Athens for the first time by myself, and there's so many things about Greek culture. Like for example, like dinners. Like me and my friends in Cyprus would go to dinners together every Tuesday night, and dinner in the Mediterranean is a very communal thing. But I was there by myself, and I remember like walking around the Acropolis, walking around like the Athens, like all day exploring the neighborhoods, and like that stuff is fine to do by myself. But then at the end of the day, like I just hit a wall because I didn't have anybody to go eat dinner with, and the thought of having to leave my apartment to go find dinner amongst a sea of people that were eating together in a language I didn't know. Like it just seemed like such an insurmountable task at that.
Yeah, I'm a lot more willing to just kind of like end up somewhere and like find a group of friends.
More spontaneous.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind just like talking to people that seem interesting on the street or like I'll go to the beach and if there's someone that I've seen there for like a few days in a row, like I'll talk to them. If people come up and pet shy, I'll start a conversation. Like, yeah, and if I get a job, then like I definitely will find a group of friends. Or I'll just spend time alone in the woods and just hang out with Shy. I'm totally
Yeah.
happy with that too. But yeah, in general, I'll probably like go somewhere and then like sign up for like a club or like do something every day and start talking to the people that I find I have stuff in common with or
Yeah.
find interesting.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I also think the going places where Americans don't go thing is also like along that point. It's also like going places where people don't really speak English, and so like a lot of the places I've been, it's like there's always someone around that speaks English, but it
Yeah.
takes a lot more effort sometimes. I think in places like Bosnia, I always like to say I'm not well traveled. I'm just differently traveled. Like I've never been to London, I've never been to Paris, I've never been to Spain, but I like really have no desire to go. But like nobody I talk to in the U.S. has like really ever been to Bosnia or Cyprus. We had no idea what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's do a little rapid fire. So, what places? So, the only place that we've traveled to together is Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
Where have we both traveled but not together?
Ooh.
Italy.
Oh yeah, we've both been to Italy, but not together, not at the same
Yeah, because
time.
you went to Venice the first time you traveled. I just recently went to Venice.
I went to
I've,
Rome too when I was
oh
in
yeah, and we've both been to
Cyprus.
Rome. But either way, like I travel to Italy quite frequently, but you've
Yeah,
been
I've only been twice
there.
for like a weekend both times.
Yeah.
Where else? We've both been to Vatican, I guess. France.
France. We had very different experiences in France because I love the south of France, like Nice, and you went to the freaking
I went to Marseille.
armpit.
I went to France
You went
one
to
time. I went to Marseille
Marseille
for a weekend.
and Paris. I didn't.
I've never been to Paris. Yeah.
I liked Montreal more than I liked Paris as
Oh,
far as
I've
like
lived,
French
yeah,
cities go.
2 years driving distance from Canada. I've never been able to go.
Oh yeah, I love Canada. That's somewhere that, well, that's not somewhere we both traveled, but not together. We don't need to talk about that yet. Where else have we both been, but not
Oh,
together? I've traveled
Amsterdam?
through Germany a
Yeah.
lot, like enough to say I've been there, but not. We definitely have had very different experiences in Germany. I haven't
Oh,
spent
yeah,
as
for
much
sure.
time there as you.
I
And
definitely
then,
want to go to there and to Austria with you since I can
ooh,
speak.
yeah, Austria would be really fun. That's
I
definitely
think
high on my bucket list.
we've both been to Amsterdam, but not at the same
Yeah,
time.
and I hated Amsterdam.
I loved Amsterdam, but I also had a really weird experience when I was there because I just had like a stopover, like a couple days, like a night stopover on my drive or my flight back from Cyprus to the US. But it was Christmas Eve, and since it was during COVID, it was like the day before I went, the whole city shut down. And so I woke
Oh
up on Christmas Eve, and I had tickets to the Anne Frank house, but they got canceled, and then nothing was
no.
open, like not even like breakfast places. I could not even get into a coffee shop. So I spent the entire morning just walking around Amsterdam in the dark by myself. Like
Dang.
it was a full ghost town. I like hardly even ran into people, and it was like 9 in the morning. It was just everything was closed.
Well, you weren't missing anything because Amsterdam's the only place where I've been followed. There are crazy people there.
Nice.
Just whatever. So
What
yeah,
is it, actually?
Amsterdam, Brussels. We've both been to
You've
Brussels,
been to
but
Brussels? I didn't know that. I love Brussels. I
again,
want
I
to
was on a
one
train
day.
and I only had
Oh,
like a
okay.
3 hour. I had like a 3 or 4 hour layover there, so I just walked around the city and got a pretzel. But
Brussels, if anyone is ever interested, Brussels not only is it like the center of like diplomacy in Europe, but it also
mhm.
has like some of the best food. It gives me a very New York City vibe, whereas like all the neighborhoods are like very ethnic neighborhoods. And you can get like really good food in places that are not like that's not like Belgian food. Like I had
Nice.
some of the best Asian food I've ever had in Brussels, and I don't know why. There's a Dunkin' Donuts in Brussels.
There's a Dunkin'. That's funny.
The Dunkin' Donuts. It looks like Boston, but acts like New York City. I would
Mm,
highly, highly recommend Belgium. There's Brussels, well, in Belgium, but I've only been to Brussels. There's something for everybody there.
I
Should
need
we
to go
just go
back
down
on it.
like quickly? Like, what are the other countries that you've just been to that I haven't?
Oh, yeah.
Interested
Well,
to that
Canada and Mexico. You've never
Yeah,
been to Canada and Mexico, and
I have
Shy
not.
has.
Yeah,
That's
Shai is more well
crazy.
traveled in North America than Devon.
Yeah. So there's Canada and Mexico. Switzerland.
I will not go to Switzerland unless I have a reason to. I refuse. It's too expensive.
That's true, but I
Too
love it.
touristy.
It's my favorite.
It's very judgmental, but that's very indicative of how I travel. That comment.
Spain.
I would love to go to Spain for the food, but I've never been.
You would love it. I love Spain. Where else have I been that you haven't?
Um,
Probably that's.
oh, Denmark. I've never been to
Oh
Denmark.
yeah, Copenhagen and
I would love to
Sweden,
go.
Stockholm.
Yeah.
Whenever I was in Copenhagen, I remember thinking that you would love it particularly.
Well, yeah, because they have. Yeah, I would really want to go. Mostly because I want to eat the food.
I don't think there really is anywhere else that I've been that you haven't.
The only other places on my list, as I'm looking at my country list, that
I'm not looking at my list.
like the only other places I think that I've been that you haven't is Cyprus, Austria, Greece, Bosnia, Middle East, Serbia, and Turkey.
Yeah, so basically I need to get out of Western Europe.
Yeah, so we need to get you somewhere.
Oh, we'll do it soon.
Jordan, technically I've been to Jordan.
Oh, I want to go there.
I want to go to Syria so bad, in Georgia. I want to go to Syria and Lebanon so bad, though.
I want to go to. I'm really thinking like New Zealand and Australia and like
Oh,
Asia next, but I also
yeah.
like Africa is really
I
high
do
on my
need to go
bucket
to
list.
Asia.
So,
I really need to go to Africa. I had to cancel 2 trips so far that I've had planned to Africa. I've never been able to make it there. Bucket list. I really want to go to Senegal, Rwanda, obviously, because they have very similar
oh
history.
yeah, I want to go to Rwanda, but to go gorilla trekking, not. Why do
I want
you want to go
about the
to
genocide.
Rwanda? Well,
I want to go learn about the genocide.
oh yeah, I want to go gorilla trekking. Where's your favorite places in the world that you've been?
My favorite places in the world, they're always like high up, like some sort of mountain, some sort of top of building, and something that you can like see kind of, you can see where you're at. So for example, like I'd probably say like my top couple spots in the world is there's a place in Sarajevo called Jutatavia, which is like the Yellow Fortress, which is at the top of the city. And during Ramadan, so Sarajevo is surrounded by mountains on all sides, and this is like one of the tops of the hills, where you can see the entire city. You can see the old Ottoman part. You can see the Austro-Hungarian section of the architecture of the city. And during Ramadan, they shoot a cannon off of the top of the fortress to signal that it's sunset time, and then
Oh
you
wow.
can sit there surrounded by mountains in the sunset, and then you can watch all of the individual minarets like light up all at once, and hear all the call to prayers around the whole city, and then you can just smell the iftar starting from like the bakeries, and it's like a very communal, very beautiful experience. And so that's definitely one of my top favorite places in the world, is specifically Jutatavia during Ramadan. And this past March, oh, okay, Shai's getting angry now. We're wrapping up, don't
She
worry.
is.
But this past March, when I found out that my spring break aligned with Ramadan, and I could write my thesis about Bosnia, I was like, oh, I'm turning that into a research trip right now. I'm going. And then I would say my balcony in Nicosia in Cyprus, because it was facing the city, so it was overlooking the mountains, and again, like the buffer, it was right up against the buffer zone, so I could see both halves of the last divided capital city in the world, and I could see the mountains where they have this like giant flag on the side of a mountain facing on the Turkish side that's facing the Greek side, and it's the flag of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, and it's basically like a giant fuck you to the Greeks, to the Greek
Oh
side of the
jeez,
island. And I could just
that's
see it every
crazy.
single morning as I was like sipping my coffee, and at night they would light it up, and it was so funny. It's just like stuff like that where you can like see the history in a place, and you can get high up and really look at it. I guess those
Ooh,
are
well, then there's a place in the south of France that I have to take you to.
oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. I mean, there's got to be somewhere in Iceland too. That's like that's like one of the most unworldly places on this planet.
Yeah, I thought Iceland was pretty, but it definitely wasn't one of my favorite places I've ever been, just because the weather and the food really
Oh yeah, Iceland is not a place to go to have good food.
no, no.
Every time I travel now, I always think of that one quote that the guide that took us through the like Silfra, the what is it, the divide of
Sulfur
the
Fisher.
tectonic plates. Yeah,
Yeah.
he said there's so much that you can see if you're willing to venture just a little bit past where everybody goes. So like if you're willing to just go a little bit further off of Ring Road. But I think about that all the time now. Like if I go to the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Syria. If I go to the Balkans, I want to go like out into the mountains and not like just the city. Like I actually really took,
Yeah, off the beaten path.
yeah, off the beaten path, exactly.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why
Yeah,
places
off
are
the,
popular, but
oh, there
even more
definitely is.
so, I think like if you want to experience the local culture and actually like learn something from people or meet people, then you're probably not going to do it in those like bigger touristy areas.
Absolutely.
Hey, what are you eating? Shy is
Alright, well, I
over
guess
it.
Shai's calling the shots. I say we go off the beaten path and into the open road. Many more places to come.
Let's do it. Okay. I have one last question.
Okay.
What is next on your bucket list?
On my bucket list?
Yeah, that you're checking off. What
Oh
are you checking
God.
off your bucket list next?
So all of your guests, they all say they have a physical bucket list, and I'm here to say I have no fucking clue what's on my bucket. I'm just vibing. I don't know what's happening next. I mean, I'm going to Belgrade for a year, but after
Yeah,
that,
you're going to Serbia for a year, and then what? I
yeah.
mean, I guess that's you don't need to know after a year. That's a
Uh,
lot to ask.
yeah, sure, that's classified.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's classified information.
I don't even know. I don't even know what's next.
Well, that's fine. Well,
What
next
should
you're
I say?
going to finish grad school and
Yeah,
then get a big boy job. That sounds like a pretty wild bucket list to me.
yeah, no, that'd be ideal.
Okay, well, and thanks for coming on because I feel like I've wanted you on here more than
Yeah, everyone
you've
keeps
been
asking.
interested in coming on. Okay, bye, Uncle Jack.
Bye, Sean.
Bye, Uncle Jack.
Oh, that's so dumb.
That is all I have for you today. I hope you gained some courage or confidence or learned something new today. If you liked this episode, be sure to rate it 5 stars or leave a review. It would really help me out. And make sure you follow the show at the Open Road Podcast so you never miss an episode. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Instagram, all at the Open Road Podcast. Lastly, don't forget to make every moment of this beautiful life count. See you Thursday.
He focuses on the Western Balkans.
Can you redo that? I'm going to say Western Balkans and the former Yugoslavia.
Nobody knows what that is.
Nobody knows
what the Balkans is.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm clarifying. Western
I'm not
Balkans.
going to say anything about
Former
Yugoslavia. I'm just going to say the Balkans.
Nobody knows what the Balkans is.
Nobody knows. Yeah, but nobody's going to know what the rest of it is. That's for sure.
What, Yugoslavia?
Nobody knows what Yugoslavia is, Devon.
How do people not know what Yugoslavia is?
Know what Yugoslavia
know?
If I didn't know you, I wouldn't know what Yugoslavia is. Anyway, I'm starting that sentence over. They might know the Balkans, but they have no fucking idea what Yugoslavia. They think that's a weird Polish sausage.